On today's episode, we're going to talk about sci-fi and the longest running and most successful sci-fi book series of all time. That's right, today we're talking Perry Rhodan. Hello, Hirn Lieblings! I'm Mari, science fiction and fantasy author who's been living in southern Germany since 2014. Today, we're going to talk about Perry Rhodan, Germany's contribution to the literary genre of science fiction, a book series that is included in George Lucas's list of inspiration for Star Wars. If you're American like me and a huge fan of science fiction, you're probably scratching your head and wondering why you haven't heard about this humongous universe that includes 3,000 booklet novelettes, 850 spin-off novels, 400 paperbacks, and 200 hardbacks. A book series that hit its 1 billionth worldwide sale in 1986. Okay, let's be realistic. We probably have never heard of it because it wasn't written by an American. Unless you're from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and a regular to the Bubonicon convention, where their mascot is actually called Perry Rhodan. But before we get started, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell if you haven't already. Here on Adventures of Lamati, we talk about writing, living abroad, and everything in between. A while back, I made a video about books that have inspired me and their German covers, and I asked for recommendations. The majority of my comments sung the praises of Perry Rhodan. But what is it? Besides being a wildly successful science fiction series. Honestly, I'd never heard of it, but of course, the overwhelming love from the comments definitely piqued my interest. So for the rest of you not in the know, Perry Rhodan is the hero of this science fiction series that was first published on September 8th, 1961 as a Romanhefte, or the German equivalent of American pulp magazines. Our epic story begins with the U.S. Space Force Major Perry Rhodan and his crew, who discover a marooned extraterrestrial spaceship from the fictional planet of Archon, which resides in the M13 globular cluster, which actually does exist. Then our heroes take said technology to travel further into the stars to find a place for humanity among the stars and cosmos. That is as simple of an explanation to an otherwise infinite universe as I can get. When I first looked into the Perry Rhodan series and seeing how big it was, it got me wondering, where do I start? Luckily, I discovered the Perryversum YouTube channel, who literally said, it doesn't matter where you start as long as you are interested in Perry Rhodan. Okay, that wasn't an exact quote. It's more like translated and paraphrased, but you get my point. Although there appear to be at least two camps that I have noticed. Either start with the original from 1961, or you can start with the reboot, which is Perry Rhodan Neo. This is literally like the German version of which Doctor Who you should start with, either the original from 1963 or the reboot in 2005. And just like Doctor Who, I started with the classic. And just like Doctor Who, I didn't like it. I'm sorry. So before you cancel culture me and crucify me for my obvious lack of taste, let me explain. Because I know exactly the very reason why I didn't like it, and it does not mean that I think it is terrible. I just don't like the writing style. Here's the thing. I am a huge fan of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. When I was 15, as soon as I had finished reading The Hobbit the first time, I actually went right back to the beginning and read it all over again. And then a few years later, a few years ago, I tried rereading it, getting ready for the Hobbit movies to come out, and I found that I couldn't. I honestly didn't like Tolkien's writing style. And when I read Lord of the Rings, I was also 15 at the time. I honestly didn't like it either. But that being said, I recognize that these are still classics. They are still amazing and obviously loved by millions, even if the writing style is different than what is considered mainstream today. And the same goes with Perry Rhodan. The classics are considered classics for a reason, and I absolutely respect that, and the series' contribution to the genre. But I felt terrible. I wanted to like the first book. I wanted to be like you guys and get in from the get-go. I even started making a reading vlog about reading the first book, Enterprise Stardust, but then I was bored filming it. So I can't imagine why any of you would care to watch me read. So anyway, I went back into my cave and I went back to the Perry Rhodan YouTube channel because they know Perry Rhodan better than me, and I hope they could offer some guidance. And it turns out other people don't like the classics either. So I'm not the only one. In fact, there's a great Perry Rhodan video in German that goes through the history of Perry Rhodan and the beginning of the series. Perry Rhodan has a ton of writers contributing to the series, which is why they've been able to make so many books. But I'm going to focus on the first two writers, Karl Herbert Schea and Walter Ernsting, or better known as under his pen name, Clark Darlton. They were the rock stars of the German fiction genre of the 50s, and it was a big deal at the time when they were brought together to create this series. I think the best way to describe it would be like, well, according to Perry Rhodan, J.J. Abrams and Joss Whedon being brought together on a project, just to kind of give you an idea. I think they were brought together because they come from the two big halves of the science fiction genre. So Scheer is the hard science fiction. So like a big chunk of the first book that I read, like of Enterprise Stardust, went to a lot of details about the ship's build and the capacity and how big the engine is, etc., etc. And all in all, and I don't like hard science fiction. I couldn't care about these details. And that's what made reading that first book so hard. On the other hand, you have Darlton, who was a humanist and loved diving into the intricacies of humanity and their relationships with each other and the bigger universe, and that's my jam, and that's what I love to write about. That's kind of more soft science fiction, so like the technology is there, but we care more about the people. So together they created a series that would then appeal to both sides of the science fiction spectrum, and I think that's right. One of the reasons why it's such a classic. Like I said, this is just a question of taste, and it has absolutely nothing to do with questioning the quality of the work. And what about you guys? My question to you is, do you prefer hard science fiction or soft? Please let me know in the comments below. Personally, I am okay with some hard science fiction as long as it still focuses more on the human element. So like Dune, for example, I think is the perfect example of a novel that weaves between hard and soft science fiction. On the other hand, I just finished reading Aurora Burning by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and that is definitely soft science fiction and absolutely my bread and butter. But like I said, taste is purely subjective. So anyway, Ben over at Perry Rhodan also recommended that if the classics aren't for you, then you should try the reboot Perry Rhodan Neo, which is what I did, and I loved it. As you may have guessed, German is not my first language. It's not even my second. I read enough German at work on a daily basis, so I mean, trying to read for pleasure in German it's been taking me a while, FYI. But I know if I wanted to get better with German, I was just, I have to do it. I can't avoid it forever. But I use a tactic that I learned from Dana Newman over at Wanted Adventure. She actually listens to the audiobook at the same time as reading, if you also want to listen along while reading it. I will admit, though, the first hour has like a million ads, so you're just going to have to power through it. But, if you're not paying for it. And I will admit, it was totally worth it. It made experiencing my true first Perry Rhodan book that much more special. And I will continue to read the series. So thank you everyone for recommending it. I even got my husband into it, which is really cool. And I also want to recommend it to anyone who wants to improve their German and also has a deep love for sci-fi. When I was first attempting to do like this whole reading in German thing, I actually tried rereading my favorite novels in German, and let me tell you, that's daunting. Have you seen how much bigger the German books are? I mean, okay, so first off, German is comparatively longer than English. And I say this because when I worked in pharma and I had to read the English and German versions of the same operating procedure, yeah, the German was much wordier than the English. But I do also have to point out that German books are also, they're still formatted differently, yes. And I do think German publishers do this on purpose to justify charging more for German books, because they're expensive. So this is the English version of Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses. See? Now compare it with the German one. On the other hand, a Perry Rhodan book is this big. It's a little. So if you want to improve German reading comprehension, try some Perry Rhodan. You can thank me later. So now I consider myself a Perry Rhodan fan, albeit still a newbie. So now I want to know your favorite ones. What is your favorite cycle? And actually, which is the ones that have that like Perry Rhodan son storyline? Because I love a good family drama. So this is totally my thing. So please let me know in the comments below which is the ones with that, because let me know. And also let me know what you guys think and what adventures I should read next. Also let me know if you want me to do more Perry Rhodan episodes. I had a lot of fun reading and researching for this episode. So let me know what you want to see next. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and give this video a thumbs up. It lets me and YouTube know you like content like this and you want to see more. Please leave me a comment if you have any questions or if there's a certain topic you'd like to see on this channel. My own space opera, The God Queen, is available in ebook, paperback, and hardback. I have all of the links in the description below, and you can also get the first 6 chapters for free just by signing up for my newsletter. And don't forget to connect with me on social media, whether it is through Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. And that's it. Until next time, ade!